Great, I like that. You guys are enthusiastic. The coffee must be working. So before I get started with my topic today, I wanted to talk a little bit, just very quickly, about great moms. So if you guys want to find me online, your temptation is going to be like, how does she spell her name? TonyaKubo.com. And if you go there, you're going to find like all this digital marketing stuff that I do, and that is not at all what you're there for. So what you'll want to do is, if you guys want to locate me online, it's greatmoms.org. And Great Moms is a collective of moms who just want more. Right now, the collective exists of just me, but we'll be growing. And so it's a lot of work-at-home moms, moms who are like superstars at volunteering, and the goal is for us to blog together and really speak into the lives of other moms who need a little bit more than wiping bottoms and noses for fulfillment. And so if that sounds at all like you, you might want to check it out. You can also find some of the stuff that I've done on Clutter there as well. So as we get into the slides today, I want to talk first of all about what we're not talking about today. Because the name of the topic is the emotional side of clutter, but I have learned something. I have learned that just because we say a word and we use words does not mean that other people hear the same meaning, right? So what this is not going to be today is this is not going to be an organization talk. I know, I'm sorry, I can't teach you guys a special way to fold your clothes. I will give you my pro tip. I hang everything up. Drives my husband crazy. If I could find a way to hang up underwear, I would do that too. But that is how I work around not knowing how to fold anything. So if you need organization, you're going to be a little bit disappointed. But I hope you're not going to be totally disappointed. Also, because I'll forget to say this at the end, I do have some free books over there at the table. I did promise to introduce my lovely assistant, Lily. And she gets to come on the stage because she's never done that before. Okay. You go step down. There you go. And so Lily is in the 3rd grade, and Lily sees mom go to work every single day, and then Lily sees mom disappear for a day or two at a time to go speak. And she has pointed out several times, I would say, over the last 6 months that she has never gotten to go see this thing called speaking. And so she would like to. So we have a little mother-daughter trip that we have planned, and she has so far been an amazing assistant. So over the table, so Kathy Lipp is somebody, she's an author speaker. Has she spoken here before? Have you guys had Kathy? No? Okay. So she underwrites some of my speaking for Mops groups because she's so passionate about the ministry, and so she frequently will give me books related to my talks that I can give away to you guys for free. So definitely you want to grab some over there at the table when you're done. And so the book is Get Yourself Organized for Christmas. So look, I give you a little bit of organization and a lot of lead time before you need it. So hopefully that'll help you out. So okay, so we're not going to talk about organization. What we are going to talk about is the emotional side of clutter. And here, so when I talk about clutter, I have realized a lot of things about clutter. So I've realized that nobody wants to admit that they have it. And those who usually talk about it don't really have it. They only think they do. Because those of us who really have it go to their houses and go, wow, you are never coming to my house. Because if this is a mess, yeah, no, we have to be porch friends. Just stay here, let the rest of the house behind us. So I know, though, statistically, about half of you in this room are somewhere on the clutter spectrum. Because that's what science tells us. Science tells us 50% of the US population has a problem with too much stuff. Science also tells us that only 15% will ever seek help for that in their life. Most of the people who don't seek help are more on the hoarding side of the spectrum. And I love how we like to talk about hoarding, right? We talk about like it's cute, like, oh, I have like 15 Disney figurines, I'm such a hoarder. Yeah, that's not quite what hoarding is. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that as well. But first so here's the other thing that you should know if you don't know this about cluttery people. We're a little bit judgy McJudgerson. So you kind of have to earn your right in the clutter world to like speak about it, right? Because we just assume that when you say you have clutter, that you have this like messy drawer. You don't know what our house looks like. So if we could go to the next slide. This is my credibility slide right there. And so how I came about clutter-free. So I grew up with a hoarder. and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I spent my whole adult life just trying to figure out how to fix myself. Why was I broken? I went to college. I was a smart girl, they told me. But I couldn't figure out how to manage that natural ebb and flow of stuff in my home. And then I had a 4.5-year-old at one point and a brand new baby. And the house was scary. Like, I had a college roommate, so we struggled to get pregnant. And I had a college roommate who used to be like, well, it's because of your house. Like, you would lose the baby in the laundry pile. And I was like, you're right. If I just had a cleaner house, I'd totally get pregnant. That makes so much sense. But I had the 6-month-old, and I started to look around, and I was like, hey, I might lose her somewhere. This is kind of bad. And I got an invitation to be part of the launch team for Kathy Lipp's Clutter Free, which was this book that she was coming out. She'd never written about anything on clutter before. And I was like, I so do not have time for this, because my full-time work at home job just became a full-time work in the office job. Please don't show up later than 8:05 a.m., and please don't leave before 5 p.m., So I was juggling that, just figuring out childcare with this baby. I have this 4.5, now 5-year-old, and I'm like, I do not need one more thing. But I have learned that typically that's when God is like, no, see, this is the thing you need, and everything else needs to shift. And so I was like, well, I love Kathy. This is like the 15th book on clutter organization I've read. Whatever, I'm sure it's a nice book. It'll be a fun read. So I was on the launch team, and it was probably the most painful book, but yet validating book I'd ever read, because finally somebody understood. And I will tell you that when somebody understands in a book, I frequently throw the book across the room and then go back and pick it up, throw it across the room because I'm mad, right? So this led to me booking Kathy in 2016 to have a workshop at my church. And then I was invited to lead the Clutter-Free Bible study, the first time I'd ever done a Bible study on Facebook back in 2017. And that Bible study has now led into a Facebook group community of over 7,000 people. So if you think you have clutter and you think you're the only person, newsflash, we're not that special. Because there's 7,100, we add about 50 to 100 people every week. Tonight at 5:30 p.m., we'll be launching the Bible study. We always do the Bible study during Lent. It just makes sense for us. And so we do it on Facebook Live. So that's the URL for the group. But usually if you go to Facebook, you can just type in Clutter Free Academy and you're good to go. So we call it the kindest corner of the internet. This is very, very important, because people who have clutter have an inner critic that could drown out an 80s rock band. Like Metallica has nothing on the inner critic of the clutter person. So we tell everybody we're the kindest corner of the internet. There is no shame to our game. We have now grown, so we have the podcast, the blog. I don't know, is anybody here familiar with either? I know I've got one podcast fan in the corner. And then we also have the Clutter Free for Life membership program, which just launched January 1st, and that's for people who need a little extra help. So I told you that I have a little bit of a problem when people joke about hoarding compared to clutter. And because it's a spectrum issue, I think it's really important that we're clear on where that spectrum lies. So hoarding is not the same as clutter, because this is hoarding. And eventually you'll see some pictures. Oh, hey, the slides are right in front of me, which he told me they would be. Is it not advancing for you? There we go. So this is hoarding. This is my childhood home. This is what it looked like 2 days after my mom passed away, when we went in to start cleaning it. Now, I used to talk about it, but that made people actually dry heave during my talks, and there is no faster way to lose a crowd. But I think it's really important that when we talk about hoarding, I'm just going to point out a couple of things. I'm going to point out a yearbook from 1995. I had wondered where that went. In the lower to you should be left picture, you're going to see a door. The door had rotted off the hinges. So now I had not been in my mom's home since I was 19. And she died when I was 38. But you know what? It didn't look that much different when I lived there. So this was my normal. And then I grew up and I got married and I did all the things and I couldn't figure out how I couldn't do what other people's normal was. Well, it's because I just didn't have a frame of reference. We can go to the next slide. So when we say hoarding is not the same as clutter, here's some important distinctions to make. So hoarding, actual hoarding, is a mental illness. If you look in the DSM-5, which is the big book of all the disorders, it falls under OCD, obsessive compulsive disorders. And it is also a spectrum issue, right? There's actually a scale that you can kind of like go room by room in your house and scale from like 0 to 12, and anything over a 4 is some form of hoarding. So hoarding is a mental illness. Clutter is actually a symptom. See, we always buy organization books because we think that the problem is the stuff. The problem is not the stuff. The problem is why we buy stuff we don't like, we don't need, we don't really want, and why we can't find a way to get rid of it. Why do we keep it? So hoarding's a mental illness. Clutter is a symptom of a larger problem. Here's the other thing is, hoarders are often oblivious, whereas cluttery folks are hyper-aware. So if you go into a hoarding space, frequently you will hear a lot of reasons why the space looks like it does. My mom, who drove a little like Ford Escort, I think, and it took 17 black Glad trash bags to clean that out. If somebody made a comment about her car because it had stuff piled up past the window, she'd be like, well, I've been busy. I've been really busy. I've been driving back and forth, go visit family, go visit friends. And logically, you're like, nobody's that busy. I mean, like you gas up your car, right? People gas up their car, they throw out their trash. But there's a need to acquire stuff, a need to insulate. So how I always describe it, because cluttery folks, what happens when you go into a cluttered house? Like, it's like repetitive apology, right? Oh, I'm so sorry. If I'd known you were coming, like, here, let me clean off a space on the couch for you to sit. My mom didn't try to clean off spaces. So what I always say is, people who have a clutter issue internalize the problem. There's that inner self-critic, I'm bad, I'm this, I'm that. Hoarders tend to project the problem. It's something or someone else's fault. For years, for decades, my mom told people that her house looked the way it did because when I moved out at 17, I left it a mess. Now, I was kind of a bratty 17-year-old. I may have left it a mess. I am pretty sure I didn't leave it in the condition of the pictures you saw, though. And I'm pretty sure that most people, after 20 years, would stop waiting for their child to come home and clean the house. I did go home to clean the house because people started calling me saying, you left your mom's house a mess and she's all by herself. And so at 19, I did it. And 1 month later, it looked worse and I gave up. And I recorded a podcast episode on it, so I'll spare you that story. But I just wasn't as aware as I am now of all the things. So I'm here to talk about clutter. So let's go into the 4 lies of clutter, because here's the other thing. Clutter lies to you. So remember how I said that inner critic is like louder than a rock band? Clutter yells, you're lazy. If you would just try harder, be better, do more, your house would look better. Clutter says, hey, like Susie over there, like you're a stay-at-home mom, but Susie over there's she works outside of the home and her house is way cleaner than yours. What's your excuse? Clutter says you're stupid. You should never have bought that in the first place, but now that you bought it, you spent good money on it, so you better keep it. Clutter tells you you're bad, right? You're a bad wife, you're a bad mom. Heaven forbid somebody calls CPS because they'll take my kids away because have you seen the floor? I don't remember when I mopped it last because I can't find it. I promise you, CPS has never taken anybody's children away just because there's a lot of Legos. They are kind of a death trap, but now you can buy slippers for them. We're all good. Clutter tells you you're irresponsible. You never should have spent $50 on that sweater, even if it was regular $300. You're a bad steward of your finances, right? You're a bad steward of your time. Clutter loves to tell us all of those things. But now I'm going to tell you the truth. So the truth is that clutter is a symptom of perfectionism. It's a symptom of people-pleasing. It's a symptom of simply being overwhelmed. And it's a symptom of fatigue, of sleep deprivation, of chronic illness. Like there's a lot of research that talks about how like clutter makes us sick. Or people who are sick a lot don't have the energy to like worry about what their pantry looks like. Right? It's a chicken and egg thing. So I usually, now I'm glad nobody threw anything at me because I usually get a lot of pushback on the perfectionism comment. So I'm going to explain that though. See, what I find in my work with the Clutter-Free Academy and what I found in myself is there is a right way to do things, which is 100% A++ perfect, and there's every other way, which is wrong. F, no A for effort. So I joke that, if I didn't have time to clear the floor, sweep, mop, scrub the baseboards with a toothbrush, well, there was just no point picking up the tissue off the floor because I wasn't going to do it right. So I better wait until I have time to do it right. But you guys are moms. There is no perfect time for anything in our lives except for right now. So, and we see this a lot in Clutter-Free Academy, especially among our new members, right? Lots of apologizing. I know we were supposed to do this for 15 minutes, but I only had 8.5, so I'll just add the 15 minutes tomorrow, or my personal favorite. So I can't do anything today, but on Saturday, I am going to spend 10 hours and not let myself eat, sleep, or use the restroom until my house is spotless. That might be a sign you have a perfectionistic sort of tendency. And then there's people-pleasing. People-pleasing comes in lots of forms. People-pleasing comes in, one of our members says that she has discovered that clutter is actually a physical boundary issue, right? So people-pleasing comes in the form of accepting gifts that have nothing to do with anything you like or your style, but you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. Somebody offers something for free, you feel like you have to take it. It's free. So they might throw it away. Right? So there's that people-pleasing aspect. Overwhelmed. Your house gets to a point where you just don't know where to start. And there's days, the fatigue. You have to decide, am I actually going to sleep for a second hour today? Or am I going to go organize a drawer? Just so you guys know, I vote for the sleep, just right here in front of you all. I vote that you take the sleep today, if you can. So what we do in Clutter-Free Academy is we advocate small steps taken over time. The first thing we need to do is we need to get clear on what clutter is. So here's how you identify clutter. You ask yourself 3 simple questions. Do you love it? Do you use it? And would you or could you buy it again? So the do you love it thing is really simple. Do you love it? We get members all the time. They're like, I joined this group because my kids made me, and I know that I have to get rid of my precious keepsakes, right? And there's like, precious keepsakes all here. And they're like, but I just don't want to. My first question is, it sounds like you love your precious keepsakes. They are out for everybody to see. Do you dust them? Do you pet them? Do you visit them? If so, you get to keep them. They're not clutter. Why do you feel like you have to get rid of these things? Well, because there's too many. Okay, well, that's a different conversation. Maybe you could pick out your favorite ones, right? And we have a conversation about what to do here, but I'm not going to tell anybody that they have to get rid of anything because that's not my choice to make for anyone. That's a choice that you make, what you love. Now, something that I have learned is I had things I loved that I kept hidden away because my house didn't look nice enough to put them out. That's a problem. I need to get rid of the things taking up space so that the things I love can come out of the closet and out where they can be enjoyed by the family. Do you use it? So, my husband really likes Star Wars. Really likes Star Wars. And so at one point in time in our area, he was like the number 2 collector. The number 1 collector actually is a Trivial Pursuit, like question and answer. He's quite famous. And his wife is a Mops mom. So this is how we know about this. So my husband really likes Star Wars. And he has boxes floor to ceiling in my garage, all of Star Wars stuff that he's collected over the years. He loves it. He does not use it. Guess what? I don't get to call it clutter. Because it's not mine, first of all. And second of all, he loves it. And if he loves opening those boxes, looking through things, putting them back, who am I to judge? As long as he doesn't bring all that into the house. That's our agreement. He gets half the garage. Easy peasy done. So other things that you use, like I have some ratty stuff, right? Like I grew up poor, but I am just messy is really the truth. I don't buy expensive purses because if a baby at a Mops meeting lets me hold it and then throws up in my purse, I don't want to have to care. I just want to be so happy I got to hold a baby. So for that reason, I have ratty purses. I get some stuff at like Goodwill because I'm just like, oh, that's cute. It matches the one outfit. I won't feel bad when I then donate it, 2 weeks later because I have nothing else that color. So if you use it, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. It's not clutter. Could you buy it again? So the actual question is, would you buy it again? But what I have found is I have had to delay some decisions in my journey because I could not buy that item again. I could either not afford to buy that very expensive antique that's been passed around for generations, or it's something that's not replaceable. And so if I'm going to get rid of it, I need to be really sure about it, right? So that's the would you, could you buy it again? If it fits in any one of those things, it's not clutter. You get to keep it if you want to make space for it. But then we have to ask ourselves, what are we going to get rid of so that we can curate the things that are left and the things that we really love? So let's talk about the other stuff, because some of you, my people, might be saying, okay, all that sounds great. Like all that sounds awesome, but I just can't do it. Like I know I should go through my pantry and get rid of old food. I know that, but I can't. And I don't know why. Well, I find that clutter comes down to 3 things, and they're emotions. And how do you fight your emotions? Clutter is about fear, guilt, and shame. And I know they're inanimate objects. They're not supposed to make us feel anyway, but they do because they tell us lies. And so let's talk about fear. What does fear look like in a clutter situation? So fear is a scarcity mentality. So I talk about this like can of sardines I had in my pantry for like 2 years. I'd go to like declutter my pantry. It was a big decluttering challenge, right? Declutter my pantry. And I'd get to the sardines and I'd be like, I don't eat sardines. I don't know what to do with canned sardines. Not quite sure how the canned sardines got here. I'm sure I thought I bought something else, or my husband, bought something at the store. And I'd put them back on the shelf. Why? Well, it took a while for me to figure this out, but I had this fear. What if we had no food in the house, no money to go buy more food, and this can of sardines was all that was there between my whole family and starvation? Illogical, but a very real feeling. And so the sardines sat for 2 years before finally I was like, handed them to my husband, and I was like, do you eat canned sardines? He's like, well, sometimes. And I'm like, do you want to eat these? He's like, not really. And I was like, can you just find a home for those that's not this home? Might be the trash can. I don't really care where it goes. I apparently am not physically able to do this, so I just need you to make the kinder cut for me. And he did. There's also fear of missing out. Now, this is particularly with sales, right? But it's 50% off. And what if it goes back up to full price? Or what if, I played the guitar when I was like 7 years old, and I kept my guitar for all those years. And what if my brand new baby grows up and wants to play guitar? Can you go sit over there? No, can you go? Thank you. This would be great for the video. And so you keep it, because what if when they're older to play guitar, we can't buy a guitar for some reason? And my son misses out on being like the next famous guitarist because I got rid of this guitar right now when he's 4 weeks old. Fear of missing out. And then there's just in case. And that's really Like my starting example is both scarcity and just in case. We keep things because we might need them later. We keep things because somebody in our family might need them later. You know, fear typically is what holds somebody who's a hoarder in deep, deep bondage. It's one of the many things that hold us in bondage to clutter. So the other thing is guilt. We've all had buyer's remorse, right? And so we know what the guilt is. But guilt and clutter play into a few things. One is we will buy gifts for people. We will buy stuff for the house to make up for being bad. So I see this a lot of times with Mops moms. They feel bad that they took a trip, or they feel bad that they didn't finish the school project on time, and so they buy their kids stuff. And they don't really want to buy their kids like something like $40 at Target, so they go to the dollar store and they buy a lot of little things. And now there's all these little things around the house that the kids don't really care about, but they feel better because they bought their child something to make up for being bad. Or they buy something for the spouse or something for the house, because if I bought it for the house, it's not actually like I overspent, right? It's like it's for the house. Everybody benefits. Guilt oftentimes with gifts. So like my mom did yard sales. It was part of her compulsion, just part of that pathology that she had. And she'd buy some interesting things. And I would keep them all in a closet because I knew that it could be 5 years from now, could be never, but she'd come over and she'd be like, you remember that Christmas pine votive Yankee candle I got for you? Whatever happened to that? You never burn it when I come over. And I'd have to be able to go to the closet, open it up, take the stinky candle. Here, Mom, Brian is still allergic to scented candles. I still can't burn scented candles in our home, but I have kept it because I love you and because I know that it's very important to you. And then I'd put it back in the closet. What we have to realize is that things are not people. Things are not emotions, right? I could have gotten rid of the candle. It would have been devastating to my mom. It would have been a hard conversation. But getting rid of the candle didn't actually mean I didn't love her or I didn't respect her. So keeping to honor the giver. This also happens a lot with hand-me-downs. Some of us become the family archivist, right? We happen to have a garage, and nobody else in the family does. So people die, and next thing you know, you've got your second cousin once removes like high school letterman's jacket, and you guys never met. And you're like, but your mom was like, but you have the garage, and we have to keep it. And you're like, okay, Mom. Goes in the garage. And then you're like, why do I have this letterman's jacket? But then suddenly you take on your mom's guilt, right? And you're like, oh, if I get rid of it, I'm saying something about my family. And the other thing is dreams or passions deferred. So who's ever had a hobby? Okay, my guess is half of you have had hobbies that didn't quite pan out. Generally, I have found hobbies require a lot of stuff. And you have to buy a lot of stuff if you want to do it right. Like, there's no hobby I've ever found that's like, buy these 3 things and you can do this hobby. So you have the hobby. You have the hobby room, the hobby desk, the hobby drawer, the hobby cabinet, whatever you have. And you don't do that hobby anymore for whatever reason. You walk by it and you're like, oh, that was a lot of money. Stamping is expensive. Scrapbooking. I have a lot of scrapbooking people in Clutter Free Academy. Apparently scrapping was an expensive hobby to have. You had to have all the papers and the inks and all the things. And you know the ink dries out, which just makes you feel worse about the fact that you haven't stamped or scrapped anything in 2 years. And then the last one is shame. So big one I find with moms in particular is buying to belong. We're out with our girlfriends. Somebody who has just a whole different checking account than you do says, we should get petties. And everybody says, yes, petties. Oh my gosh, I haven't had a pedicure in I don't know how long. And you go, yeah, that sounds great. I'll go get a pedicure. And then the pedicure leads to shopping, and shopping leads to the clearance rack, and these heels are only $10, and oh, you should get them, they're so cute. And everybody seems to be buying stuff, and you want to belong, so you buy too. And then you take it home, and you feel bad. But you feel too bad because you're the one who made the rotten choice to buy it in the first place, that you feel too bad to take it back, so it sits. And then as it sits there, it just makes you feel worse. And then I feel like sometimes we visit the buying mistake, right? So we can just appropriately repent. If I keep this lime green sweater, I will never, ever buy another lime green sweater on impulse again. That didn't work for me. If it works for you, hey, keep the lime green sweater. I think you just should get rid of it. Ghosts of purchases past, lime green sweater, good example of that. The thing that you bought on the trip, right? Because everybody buys stuff on a trip, and so you wanted to do that. Or the thing you bought because you were going to your high school reunion, and even though you had plenty of things to wear to it, it's your high school reunion. So everybody else buys something new, you should buy something new, and you've never worn it since because that look doesn't fit in your current life. So that's a ghost of purchases past because you just stare at it, regretting the money you spent. You're getting no joy from it. You're not using it. And then my favorite is the what will others think? So this is a big one, right? What will others think if they find out that I gave away my mom's china? What will others think if they find out that I don't still have my wedding dress in my closet? What will others think if they find out that I re-gift items that I don't really like but are really nice and somebody else might like them? And so we worry about what others will think, and that just keeps us in bondage. So then, let's talk about some practical things. Because I told you that in Clutter-Free Academy, we believe in small steps done consistently over time add up to big results. So, first thing we all have to say, and if you are a note taker, write this down. Clutter is never one and done. See, and this is the problem, goes back to the perfectionist thinking, right? But I cleared it off last year. I didn't know I was going to have to keep taking things off the kitchen table. If you live with other people, you have to keep taking things off the kitchen table. It's just what happens, right? So we have to realize that it's never one and done. I am not done with my clutter-free journey just because I started it way back in 2016 or 2015. It's a progress, and I equate it to peeling an onion, because here's the thing, the first time I tackled certain things, it was okay, this can go, but that can't go, right? And then a year and a half later, I'm like, why do I have 14 bags of spaghetti? Who thought that was a good idea? Who needs 14 bags of spaghetti? Okay, who can I call to take 8 bags of spaghetti off my hand? Because I'm pretty sure 8 bags of spaghetti is still a good 3 months here. But I was pretty sure that those 14 bags of spaghetti were there the last time I cleaned out the pantry, because I tend to do that every 3 months. Obviously, didn't see it, didn't notice it, wasn't a problem then, but it is now. I have a lower tolerance for certain things now than I did 3 years ago. So my husband and I, and the rest of our family obviously, moved from a 4-bedroom, 2,200 square foot house to a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, cute little house in the center of town. And my clutter-free journey went sideways in a hurry. We moved in July, and it was funny is because Lily had asked me this morning, she's like, so are we clutter-free? And I was like, well, it all depends on who you ask. Because I'm still trying to figure out how to work all this stuff. And the things just don't fit, right? This belongs in a bedroom, but this bedroom's different than that bedroom. So it's not one and done. The principles last, and you just keep applying the principles to your changing circumstances. And you have to be gentle with yourselves. Oh my gosh, we are so stinking mean. We are. Our members call themselves names that I would never call my worst enemy. And we think we deserve it. It's that fear, guilt, and shame thing. So the other thing I'm going to say is if you're looking at tackling clutter, okay, first thing is there's a principle called space boxing and time boxing. Kathy talks about this in all her books. So space boxing means plant yourself in a space and don't move. So we advocate if you're going to tackle a space, make sure you have everything you need right there. So maybe you have 3 bags, right? We have the bag for the stuff that goes in another room, so you're not walking back and forth across your house, because that'll make you tired. The bag for stuff that goes in this room, but not right here where I'm planted. I have to actually walk somewhere. And then there's the bag for stuff that you're going to give away. And then there's your trash bag, your recycling bag, whatever. And so you stay in this spot. And then you set a timer. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever makes you happy. I always say 5 minutes less than you actually have. Because let's say you have 15 minutes. You're going to spend 10 minutes here. As fast as you can, put everything in your bags. And then the timer goes off. Ding, done. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Shut the drawer. Okay, you're good. Now you get 5 minutes to reset everything. Because if you only had 15 minutes and you spend 15 minutes doing that, then you'd walk away with all this bag of stuff. More clutter. So you just stay there. Time boxing is you set a timer and you allot a specific amount of time, and then you get to be much more task-oriented. And in Clutter Free Academy, I say no more than 20 minutes a day. I prefer 15 minutes because I don't want you to exhaust yourself. Because I've done that. I've done the 13-hour cleaning marathon, and then it took me 3 weeks to recover, and guess what my house looked like at the end of 3 weeks? Because I didn't have any energy. You probably won't either. And so I do believe a little each day adds up over time. And so I always say start small, but what I've realized is a lot of times that doesn't mean the same thing to some people, right? So if you think you have to tackle your whole house and I say start small, then you go, oh, I guess I just do one room at a time. And if you're somebody who would tackle a whole room, you go, oh, she must mean I just do my wall of bookshelves. No, when I say start small, I mean one drawer, one shelf. You only have 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 20 if you've got a luxury there. That's it. And it's a win when you've tackled that drawer. Because guess what? You can come back tomorrow or a week from now and you can tackle the second drawer. And how much easier is it to keep up if you're doing it one drawer at a time or one shelf at a time? Be kind to your future self. Has anybody heard this term before? So here's what typically happens. Right? So let's just use dinner as our example. You eat dinner, and everybody gets up from the dinner table, and we'll just pretend that your kids are not as well-mannered as they probably are, and everybody leaves everything on the table. And you're like, oh, okay. So you putting stuff in the dishes, you put everything in the sink, you're putting the food away, and you're like, oh, I'm tired. And the kids say, hey, Mommy, let's watch TV, or hey, it's bath time. Okay, I'll do the dishes later. But here's what I found. The later me, like 10 p.m. me does not have more energy than 7 p.m. me. 10 p.m. me does not have more time than 7 p.m. me. So it makes a lot more sense to just suck it up and do the dishes at 7 p.m. so the 10 p.m. me can actually go to bed or read or watch TV or whatever these people do after their dishes have been washed. And it also makes for a smoother morning because I am a happier person when I wake up in the morning and my sink doesn't have dishes. I am a happier person when I can unload my dishwasher in the morning before I leave for work with a clean sink, clean dishwasher, empty dishwasher, come back home, and I feel ready to immediately start cooking dinner because I don't feel like there's a half hour of prep before my kitchen's ready to cook. So that's an example of taking care of my future self. Your example could be different. It might be setting out a week's worth of outfits for the kids. It might simply be setting out tomorrow's outfit before you go to bed. Whatever it does, I would say that the key is to just think of what would tomorrow me appreciate that I could do right now. And then negotiate space. So I already used the Star Wars collection as an example, because a lot of people come into Clutter Free Academy all about the other people they live with. I am here so you will help me get my husband to clean his room or get my kids to do this. And I am the first person that says, actually, no, you can't make anybody do anything. Sorry about that. So you really have to focus on your own stuff. But what you can do is you can negotiate space. So my husband knows he has the garage for Star Wars. If at any point in time he has too much stuff, then he needs to make a decision of what he needs to do to keep the stuff in the garage. You know, you might have assigned shelves in your fridge. You might have assigned space in bedrooms. This is, we have 3 buckets because we have 1 bathroom, so we've got like 3 buckets for me and the 2 girls, and our things go in our buckets. And if our buckets are overflowing, then we need to make some hard decisions about keeping our stuff to our assigned space. So negotiating space is a really good tool for helping when you live with other people, because it doesn't involve you calling other people's precious things clutter, right? So you don't have to have that fight over what's special to you and what's special to me. And it can be objective. You know, Kathy has like gorilla shelves in her garage. She has a gorilla shelf. Her husband has a set of gorilla shelves. They have equal space. They get to do whatever they want with it. And then the other thing is to enroll your people. I can't make you make your kids do anything. But what I do know is our demeanor and our emotion often transfers to our children. And so if you're really excited, you can get your kids really excited. So we have frequently done our 2,000 thing fling or a 500 thing fling, whatever our challenge is going on in the group. We do it as a household. And everybody gets an assigned color highlighter, and we have a tracking sheet that hangs on the wall, and everybody gets to highlight a box when they get rid of something, whether they give it away, whether they throw it away. And then whoever has the most boxes colored in their color wins a prize. What's the prize? It just depends. Sometimes you get to pick dinner. Sometimes you get a cake pop from Starbucks. And sometimes you get an extra story at story time. Because, you know, you're 3 and that sounds really exciting. It's whatever works, right? But enroll your people. But the easiest way to enroll them is to not be punitive, not be blaming, but to say, hey, we are a team. And we're in this together. And we're doing it together. And then do it with them. That's the other problem we have, right? We want to send the kids to go clean up their room all by themselves so we can actually like drink coffee that's still hot. But it's unlikely that there's any cleaning going on in there because what are they doing? They like find this thing that's been underneath their like bed for like 4 months and suddenly it's their favorite toy in the whole wide world and they could never possibly get rid of it and now they must go play with it. And if you're with them, you can help them make decisions. You can say, okay, well, all of our stuffed animals go here. Looks like we have a few too many. Are there any that we would like to give to other children? Because I'd like to make a pile to give to other children. In our house, we say we play Santa for other kids. And so the little ones, toddlers get really excited about the idea of playing Santa. That's pretty magical for them. And you will find that they're very generous. I also find that my kids are actually much more able to part with things than I think they will be. And we actually get a lot farther when I enroll my people. And my husband, we do a lot of dividing and conquering. Like early on in my clutter-free journey, I really, really struggled with this ability to get rid of stuff. And so I would have to say, okay, I'd go in the garage and then I'm overwhelmed, like, right? So I'm like, I just don't know where to start. And he's very task-oriented. He's a great guy. And so I'd be like, okay, this, and this. I haven't unpacked those boxes since I moved out of the dorms when I graduated college. I am pretty sure that there is nothing there I need. I need them to go. Disappear, I don't care. And he'd be like, okay, check, got that. And I'd be like, okay, this stuff over here. Like money's tight right now, and that's a whole lot of Party Light. Party Light was expensive back in the day when I bought this stuff, and then I put it away because I had little people who would break my expensive Party Light. And I'm just like, I could probably sell it, but I don't have time, energy, any of that to figure out how to sell it, how to price it. I just want it gone. Am I a bad person? It's okay, tell me I'm a bad person. I need to hear I'm a bad person from somebody other than myself. And he was just like, what year is it? And I'm like, so you don't love this? No, I don't really love it. Well, would you be mad at me if we just like donated it? Because I know that like I might be able to get like $20. And he'd be like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna take that out to my car. And he would do it for me. All I had to do was make him the list, get rid of these things, and he would get rid of them. And that was all I needed for a long time. Like I didn't need him to do anything with his own stuff. I just needed help managing the emotions of my own stuff. And he was so happy to have the extra space. And that's something we talk about a lot. We talk about like, what is the value of this space compared to the item that's taking it up? And that's only a question you can answer for yourself. So, we have some discussion questions on the last slide. You might have some on your tables. I am going to be over here. We have some cute, tiny little trinkets that are made by another Mops mom. We have the free books that I would love to give to you. But what I would like to do before we break is I would love to pray for you. Would that be okay? Lord God, thank you for the women who are here today. Thank you for making the space in their schedule, for giving them the time. Thank you, Lord, for the work that you're doing in their hearts. Lord, I just hope that if anybody here is struggling in any way, Lord, not just with clutter, but with relationship management, or maybe it is clutter, maybe it's clutter of the heart, clutter of the head, that you would help them to release that and give it to you, Lord. Because we know that your capacity is so much greater than our own, and we don't really need to shoulder the burden. And in Jesus' name we pray, amen. Thank you so much for having me.